Hey y'all, welcome back to another video on my channel. I thought that I would use my free time until I start teaching again, so I got like a little free block to talk about my dating life. And while I'm sitting here on the floor in the driveway underneath the palm trees, it's beautiful out. It's warm, it feels good, but let's talk about it because oh my gosh. So to make a long story short, I divorced probably over 5 years ago. I don't know, I stopped counting. I took some time, got into therapy, and was doing some healing. Took me about 3 years in my process to actually complete everything. I wasn't really dating or anything like that, just more so of focusing on God, the word, my prayer life, and just trying to heal so that, when I was ready to date, that I could get back out in the dating world and come with less baggage, come a lot more whole and healed, which we don't really see a lot of that in today's dating pool. So I do want to go ahead and talk a little bit about the dating pool, at least for me, what it's been looking like, at least over the past year, and how crazy it is out here, because it's crazy out here. Okay, so last year I decided, hey, I'm ready for something serious. Y'all don't mind my nails. And so I ended up kind of, getting on a dating app, Hinge. I'm pretty sure what you guys know about. And I'm like, let me just kind of put myself out there and see. And last year I probably got like maybe 3 or 4 suitors that I thought or I felt was, something to work with. Not to say that they weren't, because some were pretty good, pretty dope. But again, I think when you go through the process, you date, you ask questions, you really get to learn somebody's process and where they are. And you just ask questions like, what are their values? Do they share the same values as you? Do we believe in the same God? Like, what are your thoughts when it comes to, career or job and things like that? I had a couple of suitors. It did not last long. Maybe all with just one, it lasted. And I was actually surprised that it lasted. Now, as far as that individual, I'll probably talk about that in another video. But I want to focus on the whole generality of it. Nothing out here, dog. Nothing out here. Now, would have stayed married if I would have known, like, dang, ain't nothing out here? No. I sure would have still went through with divorce, and just for the betterment of myself and obviously the situation that I was in, and then being a single mom, having a daughter, it just really was not healthy for her to be seeing certain things. So I just kind of wanted to get out of that and, make a better environment for my daughter, but also like set by example. So anyway, I did my healing for 3 years in therapy, and what I will say is that when you do heal, you do notice that like your dating pool, though it's very rare if you do find something and then or someone and you stick with that. But when I say nothing out here, nothing out here, like at all. And it makes you question, like, are people really healing after they get out of like these relationships, or are they just like, jumping into any old thing just because they don't want to be alone? But in my case, I'm ready for something. So I'm not rushing my process. I'm not so quick to jump into something with somebody, but I'm definitely making sure that I'm thoroughly evaluating, as well as like, if I have a village, just kind of sharing little things like here and there about suitor A, suitor B, suitor C, and D. And for me, it doesn't really, I don't know if it's just me, if it don't last long, it doesn't last long. I don't really believe in holding on to a person. Like if something doesn't work, I don't believe that we should stay friends. I don't believe that we should do any of that, because I wasn't really, when I started my process of dating, it wasn't to really find a friend. It was to, pray and just kind of date and see if my partner is out there somewhere. But I do trust that God has a plan. But yeah, y'all, when I say it's crazy out here, it's crazy out here. I'm going to tell you some of the individuals. I'm not going to tell you their names or anything like that, but I guess I'll describe some individuals that I've kind of crossed paths with, where it's like, yikes, no. And then where it's like, interesting. So, yeah. All right, so the first suitor that I dated, I'm not going to tell his name, was someone that I ended up going to school with, probably in like my middle school, high school days. And I do know, like at a point in time, like when I was younger, I did have a thing for him. Got older and a little like towards the edge of like divorce or on the brink of it, we started talking or whatever. But as far as the timing, sometimes like it just wouldn't work out. Either I'd be leaving, from my hometown and then relocating back to Florida or something like that, or it just, I don't know, it just wouldn't work out. So finally, after some years, we just decided, okay, let's kind of try to give it a shot, the talking phase, the process, things like that. And again, there was somewhat of an interest there that I had for him. But I knew him as a child, or us growing up as children, but really not as a man. So trying to understand and develop an understanding for like, okay, for this person I went to school with, what is the man version of this person like? Absolutely terrible. And listen, like I said, I'm not sharing any names because I pray all the best works out for that individual. But we went through for a while. I kind of felt like, okay, things were going good because we were in the talking stage for like maybe 3 to 4 months. After that, he had asked me to be his girlfriend. I'm like, yeah, sure thing. But by that time we were still kind of like long distance. And then I just ended up like, oh, you know what? Let's kind of, solidify certain things. And maybe the plan was, let's try to like come together, work things out, and then see if it goes as planned to leave New York. Because God knows I love New York, but I don't love New York that much to sit there and stay. It's expensive. So anyway, when I got to New York, when I say the amount of time that I spent in New York was probably about like 8 months to a year or so. And no progress. When I mean like, as far as like when we were further apart, like, or distance, long distance, the communication, everything was there. Always FaceTiming, always calling, always texting, trying to plan trips where it's like, all right, we can come together. But as soon as literally I made that transition from Florida back to New York, he didn't want to be found, nowhere to be found. Didn't want to, when I say like giving me a hard way to go, giving me a hard way to go, like didn't want to hang out. Didn't want to do nothing. Like during family functions, like cookouts and things like that, I would invite him, things like that. I don't know what that is. I'm like, yeah. So what I started realizing after a while was not just for last year, like when we were trying, even a couple years before then, just the talking stage, there were certain patterns I would pick up on and notice. And I'm like, oh, so for a person who might, they're good with communicating, but they don't want you around. Like if he has like a marathon going on because he's athletic or whatever, if I be like, yo, I wouldn't mind coming to show support and things like that. He wouldn't want me there. And at that point, I just kind of started putting like two and two together. Like, okay, maybe he's talking to somebody or he's dating somebody else. That's fine. It is what it is. Because we weren't, necessarily exclusive. And things just kind of went sour, went downhill from there. And what I started to realize was like, do I really want a person like in my life where there are patterns that they can't get rid of or be rid of, where constantly they don't want to be around you, or it's like, yeah, I want you around me when you're far away, but when it's the opportunity to come up close, either I fear for it. And literally, it's the same individual who contacted me like maybe a couple days ago, whatever, after my church fast, kind of asking for some form of communication. And first I'm like, oh, maybe we can be cordial, because I'm not interested in the person now. But then I thought about it and I'm like, you know what? No, I can't really assist you in anything, because what would be your purpose for coming back? I appreciate the fact that, a thought crosses your mind where it's like, oh, I'm thinking about you and your daughter, how you doing? Blase, blase, blah. But it's like, if I gotta constantly go through the stress and the troubles where, you have this pattern that you're not dealing with, or even if it's just me trying to envision, like, can I see this individual leaving New York to relocate to another state or something? I can't see it. Can't see it. So I'm like, yeah, let me just kind of stop wasting time and let that person go. But for me, that was suitor A, I would say, only for the reasons that before everything started going sour, the qualities he kind of embodied. He didn't fully check off my list, but he did have some qualities, like he's very family oriented, because of course he spends time with his family, and his sister's children and things like that, always shows up, things like that, very calm and certain things when it comes to certain demeanor. So I looked at that. He had a job. I looked at that as well. Christian, believed in God. But just those patterns for me was just a American Idol type of Randy response, like, it's a no for me, dog. So let it go, and we'll talk about suitor 2 in another video.